Carroll O'Connor really hated him more than anyone else. Carroll O'Connor was born as John Carroll O'Connor on August 2, 1924, in the Bronx, New York. He grew up in an Irish-American family that cared a lot about education, telling stories, and keeping traditions alive. His early years were tough because of the Great Depression when money was hard to come by. These hard times taught him a lot about different social classes, struggling to get by, and how people see the world in different ways, things he later brought into his acting. After going to Wake Forest University and then the University of Montana, O'Connor had to pause his studies to serve in the United States Merchant Marine during World War II. This time in the war taught him about being tough, staying disciplined, and understanding how complicated people can be. After the war ended, O'Connor went back to school and eventually got a degree in English. He loved books, language, and how people express themselves, which led him to try teaching before he found what he really loved, acting. In the 1950s, he moved all the way to Ireland, where he studied at University College Dublin. Living overseas gave him a deep love for theater and performing, and he started acting in stage plays, getting better at his craft and getting ready for the long career ahead of him. O'Connor finally came back to the United States, where he worked really hard during the 1960s to make it in the entertainment business. He appeared in guest spots on different TV shows and in smaller parts in Hollywood movies, including parts people remember in Cleopatra, 1963, What Did You Do in the War, Daddy? 1966, and Point Blank, 1967. These roles showed he could do many different things. He could easily switch between serious dramatic parts and lighter funny characters. But even though he was talented, it wasn't until the 1970s that O'Connor got the role that would make him famous and put him in television history. That role, of course, was Archie Bunker in the groundbreaking sitcom All in the Family, 1971 to 1979. Archie Bunker was a working-class man from Queens, a character who showed all the prejudices, frustrations, and differences between generations in American society at that time. While many actors might have been scared to play a character with such controversial views, O'Connor took on the challenge. He gave Archie depth, made him complicated, and even showed moments when he was vulnerable, making sure the character wasn't just a simple cartoon. Instead, O'Connor's performance made Archie into a mirror that showed America's problems with race, gender roles, politics, and cultural change. Viewers might not have agreed with Archie's views, but they recognized him, understood him, and often laughed with him just as much as they laughed at him. All in the Family became a huge cultural event, breaking down television barriers by openly talking about topics like racism, women's rights, the Vietnam War, and money inequality, subjects that had rarely, if ever, been discussed on primetime television before. O'Connor's work on the show won him 4 Primetime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series, securing his place among television's greatest performers. He played Archie again in the spin-off series Archie Bunker's Place, 1979 to 1983, making his legacy and influence even bigger. But O'Connor wasn't just known for Archie Bunker. In the late 1980s and 1990s, he created a whole new image for himself with another famous role, this time as the caring, thoughtful Chief Bill Gillespie in the television version of In the Heat of the Night, 1988 to 1995. Unlike Archie, Gillespie was a character who changed over time, learning, growing, and adjusting to the challenges of racial tension and crime in a small Mississippi town. O'Connor also worked as a producer and writer on the series, proving his skills went beyond acting and into storytelling itself. His creative vision helped In the Heat of the Night become a long-running success that showed his range as both a performer and a leader in the industry. In 1962, while Carroll O'Connor was in Rome working on the epic historical film Cleopatra, a production that was famous for its fancy sets, huge budget problems, and the pressure of filming alongside legends like Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, O'Connor and his wife Nancy Fields O'Connor made a very personal and life-changing decision. They adopted a 6-day-old infant boy, naming him Hugh, a deeply meaningful choice that honored O'Connor's own brother who had tragically died just a year earlier. This act of adoption not only showed the couple's compassion and desire to give a loving home to a child who needed one, but also showed O'Connor's deep commitment to family, even in the middle of the chaos and demands of an international film production. The adoption was a turning point in O'Connor's personal life, mixing joy and remembrance as he brought into his home a child whose very name carried the memory of a loved one lost too soon. As Hugh grew up, he got to see the world of television and film through his father's career. At the age of 17, he took on a small but meaningful role on the set of Archie Bunker's Place, working as a courier. This job, though it seemed minor, gave Hugh the chance to be actively involved in the environment that had shaped so much of his father's life and career. For O'Connor, who was by this time a television icon, it was a way to share both the excitement and responsibility of a professional set with his son, building not just family bonds, but also teaching a sense of hard work and familiarity with the entertainment industry. Eventually, O'Connor even created the character of Officer Lonnie Jameson on In the Heat of the Night specifically for Hugh, a gesture that was more than just career help. It was a heartfelt attempt to give his son a space to express himself creatively and professionally under the protective guidance of a father who understood the challenges and opportunities of the acting world. This act showed O'Connor's lasting devotion as a parent and mentor, blending his personal and professional life in a rare and touching way. Tragically, on March 28, 1995, O'Connor's son Hugh died by suicide after a long and painful struggle with drug addiction. This devastating loss deeply affected O'Connor both as a father and as a public figure. The pain of losing a child is impossible to measure, and for O'Connor, it became a reason to advocate and do public service. After Hugh's death, O'Connor channeled his grief into meaningful action, appearing in public service announcements for the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. He used his platform, fame, and personal experience to educate the public about the dangers of drug abuse and the human cost of addiction, trying to prevent other families from going through the heartbreak he had experienced. For the rest of his life, O'Connor dedicated himself to raising awareness about drug addiction, speaking openly about the struggles his son faced, and advocating for support, understanding, and help for those suffering from substance abuse. This commitment showed a remarkable strength and a transformation of personal tragedy into a lifelong mission to help others, cementing O'Connor's legacy not only as an iconic actor but also as a devoted father and compassionate advocate. Carroll O'Connor, the legendary actor best known for his iconic role as Archie Bunker on All in the Family, was never one to hold back when it came to people he disliked, and his feelings toward Rob Reiner, who played his son-in-law Michael "Meathead" Stivic on the show, were no exception. In interviews and private conversations, O'Connor didn't shy away from expressing his contempt, once saying bluntly, "I've never hated anyone as much as I hated Rob Reiner." This wasn't just a passing annoyance or a quick clash of personalities. It was a deep and long-lasting hatred that O'Connor admitted colored his experience on the show for years. Unlike typical tensions that might happen on a television set, their conflict was deeply personal, rooted in fundamental differences in personality, ego, and approach to acting. O'Connor felt that Reiner's presence and attitude constantly undermined the team spirit that was supposed to define the cast. According to O'Connor, part of the problem was Reiner's approach to his role. He explained, "Rob always thought he was smarter than everyone else, that he had some moral high ground just because he played the liberal son-in-law." O'Connor, who was intensely proud of his own craft and deeply invested in making his performance authentic, got irritated by Reiner's self-confidence. To O'Connor, it wasn't just Reiner's acting choices. It was the aura of superiority he carried around on set, the criticism he seemed to project, and the way he challenged O'Connor's own authority and interpretation of Archie Bunker. O'Connor often described Reiner as arrogant and insufferable, insisting that his co-star's behavior went beyond normal artistic differences into territory that felt deliberately provocative and disrespectful. He saw Reiner as someone who not only questioned his professionalism but also threatened the dynamics of the cast and crew, creating a tension that was impossible to ignore. O'Connor's hatred was also fueled by the personal dimension of their relationship, or rather the lack of one. Whereas some actors develop close bonds with their co-stars, sharing jokes, personal stories, and mutual support, O'Connor found Reiner distant and condescending. He recalled, "There was never a moment when I felt like Rob was my friend. He was always out to prove something, always competing for attention in ways I found exhausting." Essentially, O'Connor felt isolated, constantly having to defend not just his character but also his own professional worth against Reiner's perceived challenges. Their interactions on set, he said, were tense, awkward, and often downright hostile, with Reiner's behavior making the frustration of long shooting days and creative disagreements even worse. Yet it wasn't just personal dislike that fueled O'Connor's animosity. There was also a philosophical clash. Archie Bunker was in many ways a complex figure whose nuances required O'Connor's careful interpretation. Reiner's approach to his own character, meanwhile, leaned heavily on satire and ideological assertion, which O'Connor felt simplified the father-son-in-law conflict into a constant moral lecture. He once remarked, "It wasn't about acting. It was about him trying to teach me a lesson every day about liberal versus conservative, right versus wrong. I'm an actor, not a preacher." This ideological friction made their scenes particularly challenging, as O'Connor felt he had to constantly navigate Reiner's impulses while staying true to the essence of Archie. Despite the intensity of these feelings, O'Connor rarely allowed them to erupt on camera. His professionalism meant that while he hated Reiner personally, he made sure that the tension added to the authenticity of their scenes rather than took away from them. Paradoxically, O'Connor's animosity may have contributed to the dramatic chemistry that made Archie and Michael's interactions so compelling for audiences, though O'Connor himself would likely have dismissed this as a minor consolation. In private, however, he never softened his opinion, maintaining to the end of his life that his dislike for Reiner was unparalleled. "I've worked with many people I couldn't stand, but Rob topped them all, more than anyone ever." In the end, Carroll O'Connor's hatred for Rob Reiner was emblematic of a complex, often contradictory personality, a man who was passionate about his craft, fiercely protective of his artistic integrity, and unafraid to confront those he found insufferable. While the public saw the genial, sometimes cantankerous Archie Bunker, behind the scenes, O'Connor's relationship with Reiner revealed a deep personal friction that shaped much of his experience on All in the Family. This story serves as a reminder that legendary collaborations on screen can hide real-life tensions that are just as dramatic, even if less visible, than the scripted conflicts audiences love. Carroll O'Connor, the legendary actor best known for his iconic portrayal of Archie Bunker on All in the Family, passed away at the age of 76 on June 21, 2001. His death happened in Culver City, California, a city closely tied to the entertainment industry and one that had been central to much of O'Connor's career. The immediate cause of his death was a heart attack, a tragic event that was brought on by long-standing complications from diabetes, a condition he had battled for years. Diabetes, known for its severe impact on heart health, likely weakened O'Connor's heart over time, making him vulnerable to a fatal cardiac event. His passing marked the end of an era in American television, as O'Connor had been a towering presence on screen, bringing depth, humor, and social commentary to the character of Archie Bunker, a role that had become both a cultural touchstone and a symbol of the complexities of working-class life in America. Following his death, O'Connor's body was laid to rest at Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery, a prestigious resting place in Los Angeles known for being the final home to many Hollywood legends. The choice of Westwood reflected both O'Connor's stature in the entertainment world and the respect he commanded among his peers. In a deeply personal and poignant tribute, a cenotaph honoring his son Hugh was also placed on O'Connor's gravestone. This gesture showed the profound bond between father and son, as Hugh had been a central figure in O'Connor's life, adopted during a significant period in the actor's personal journey. The cenotaph served not only as a memorial to Hugh but also as a symbol of O'Connor's devotion to family, highlighting the ways in which his personal life was intertwined with his public persona. The gravestone, marked by both his own legacy and the remembrance of his son, stands as a lasting monument to O'Connor's life, career, and the enduring love he held for his family.